Hey, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. This is the Raiders of the North Sea setup and rules breakdown for the base game only. For the playthrough and expansions, click on the link below. Again, before we start, please like, subscribe, comment below, tell me what you hate, tell me what you love, so on, so on, so on. This is going to be a short one because it's not that complicated of a game. So let's get to it right away. Alright, the setup, pretty simple. Put out your game board. Let's fill up the board. So you're going to notice all these squares on the board, they have an icon showing in the top right. Those are meeple colors. You're going to take those colors, you're going to put them in the board. Or on the board, whatever. You're going to notice black and gray are very similar, but they're not the same. So be careful where you place them. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the rest of this. You know how it goes. Next, you're going to get your baggie full of all the plunder tokens. And on the top left, they're going to tell you how many plunder go in every single spot. So, first one is 4, next one is 3, and so on and so on. So, I won't bore you with this again, but they should all look like on the top where you see they're already done. So I'll fill up the board, I'll show you what it looks like at the end. This is your offering spots here. You have a deck of offering tokens or tiles or whatever. They all look like this. Give it a shuffle, take out your top 3. Put them here, put the rest of the deck here, that's fine. Let's go to the player area. Alright, player areas, they get a player board. No, they don't, not in the base game, but this is just a standard board. It doesn't actually tell you anything unless you're playing with the expansion with up here, but we're not playing with that, so just use the board to teach people how to play. It's easier. They have 5 slots to put guys, and it gives you their limit. Done. Easy peasy. Next, for color's sake, give them a boat, tells them their color. Give each player $2. Give them their first black worker. It goes right here. You're going to give them 5 cards. They're going to pick 3 at the beginning of the game, but give them 5 cards for now. Let's go back to the game board. You're going to put everyone's tokens on the 0 space of the strength, Valkyrie, and point tracks. Now, very important, the first 3 meeples are already placed on the board. You're going to put 1 on the gatehouse, 1 on town hall, and 1 on the treasury. I think that's it. Let's go to rules. Or actually, I'll show you what it looks like and then we'll go to rules. You should look like this. And don't forget to add your pile of coins and provisions here and just put your deck of cards next to the board. Let's go to rules. Alright, the rules section for Raiders of the North Sea. Here we are set up for 3 players. So what is Raiders of the North Sea? It's essentially a very basic worker placement game. You're going to be placing out a worker, doing an action, and so on and so on. You're just going to keep going until the game ends. There's no really round structure. There's no first player or whatever. You are going to start with the first player, but it'll just keep going round and round until the end game is triggered. So how does the game end? There's one of 3 ways. First is if there's no more Valkyrie tokens on the board. Those are the black tokens. We'll talk about that later in the rules. Second way that it can end is if this deck is completely finished. And the third way that it can end is if there's only 1 settlement in the fortresses up there. So you see there's 6. If there's only 1 left, that'll trigger the end game. How end game is triggered is that player will finish out his turn, and then every player will get an extra turn afterwards, so including the person who triggered it. Alright? So how do you win? Well, it's a Euro game, so you're going to be scoring points. That's where all these yellow tokens come into play. So there's offerings here that'll score you points. Whoops. There's going up the armor track here, the Valkyrie track. When you raid, you get a lot of points, so that's something you definitely want to be doing. You'll go up that track. You'll get resources at the end of the game will translate into points. For example, gold's a point each, and livestock's 2 for 1 or something like that. And you might have some Vikings that give you points depending on certain situations. Alright, so now we're going to sort of break up the actions into 2 different parts. There's the work actions here, and there's the raiding actions up here. So they work a little differently, so we'll tackle these ones first, and then we'll go on to raiding. Okay? Alright, the work actions, that's all the worker placement spots below the river here. So that's wherever you're going to see the circles down here. So pretty simple, is like every other worker placement game, you're going to place a worker and do the action, but you're also going to pull a worker and do that action as well. So that's the unique part of this game. So every time it's your turn, you're actually going to do 2 things instead of 1 thing. Pretty cool. The order of your things actually matters. So let's say you needed the money to play a guy, but there was already a guy on the money. Well, you can't put a guy and then pull off the money, right? So there's some of the decision space. Alright, so let's just talk about all these actions and what they do, and then we'll move on to the raiding action. So, Gatehouse, pretty easy. You just grab 2 cards off the top of the deck. Town Hall is you actually play a card for their one-time ability on the bottom right. They're all unique, so once you play them, just toss it into the discard pile. Barracks is actually playing the Viking on your ship. I'll just show you how that works. You have space for 5 Vikings max. You pay the cost here and you put them on your ship. As soon as you play him on your ship, his ability is now active, bottom left. They're all unique, so read them and apply their abilities whenever necessary. Okay, Longhouse. That needs a gray or a white worker. Very important. Here you can turn in a livestock for 2 provision or satisfy one of these recipe for offering tiles. Silversmith, get money, depending on the type of worker, different amounts. Mill, get provisions, again, different color, different amounts. Armory, just like the Longhouse, you need to put a gray or a white, and this is how you go up the armor track. So if you're given iron, you go up twice. If you're given money, you go up once. And lastly, there's the treasury. Here's where you can discard cards that you don't really need, and you can either gain $2 for 1 card or discard 2 cards and get a gold. The gold comes from a general supply or just take it from the bag. So those are all the actions and how it works. Let's go talk about the raiding actions now. Alright, the raiding actions. That's all the available worker placement spots above the river. Alright, so you'll, just like some of the spots down here, you'll have to pay attention to the worker requirement when placing your worker. Right, so the harbor is always black or gray and so on and so on. Right, so how do you raid? So unlike work, where you place a guy, you do something, you pull a guy, you do something, raiding is, your only action for the turn is going to be raiding if you want to raid. Right, so if I want to raid a harbor, that's going to be my action for the turn. You can't just place your worker though, there is a restriction and a requirement to actually raid. So let's say I want to raid this harbor over here. The requirement is written on the board. So you're always going to have one line that says provision / gold, because up there you might need gold, and how many Vikings you need on your ship. So as long as I have at least 3 Vikings on my ship and I had a provision to turn into the general supply, I can raid this harbor. How that works is you just put your guy on one of those 3 spots. He's now going to be locked into there for the rest of the game, and you'll pick one of the 3 settlements here and take everything from it, including the worker. So if I want, I can take these 3 with the worker. These will go into my personal supply, and this will go into my little circular spot on my board. All right. Now, when you do that, you're also going to score the settlement, right? So for the harbor, it's easy. You're going to get 1 point every time. For every other spot, you have to calculate your strength to figure out how many points you're actually going to score on that raid. All right, so you got to add up 3 different things. First, there might be a die value. So here's 1, here's 1, sometimes it's 2. So you'll take that die, you'll roll it, and it'll give you a base strength. So the number goes between 2 and 5, so most likely you'll roll a 3 or a 4. So here's 4. Second thing you're going to do is add up the strength of all the Vikings on your ship. So let's say in this example here, at 10 plus 4 is 14. The third thing you're going to add is your armor rating. So that's why raising this during the game is pretty good, because it'll be added to your raids every single time. So let's say 5 plus my 14 is now 19. All right. So let's say I was attacking an outpost here, which needs at least a gray worker. There's 2 numbers there. Sometimes there's 3 on top there, but for this one, there's only 2. There's a 16 and a 10 for strength. So if you hit 16 or above, you'll score the flag value that's there, so that's 4. And if you're between 10 and 15, you'll score the flag value there, that's 2. And if you actually strength is below the number, which is 10, you'll score 0 points. You just score your points up the track, and that's it. The only plunder you don't actually take into your personal supply are these black discs, or these black skulls. I guess they're skulls. Never noticed before. But those are Valkyrie tokens. So those ones you would put them back into the general supply, so just have a little supply there of Valkyrie tokens. And when that happens, you'll go up the Valkyrie track. But you need to kill off somebody on your boat for every single Valkyrie token that you grab. So if on a turn you grab 2 Valkyrie tokens, you'll have to kill 2 guys off your ship. Now, on a weird example that you had only 1 guy on your ship and you were able to attack and you had 3 or 2 or more Valkyrie tokens, Well, you'll kill your one guy, but you wouldn't go up the track 3 times. You'll only go up once because that's how many guys you killed off, even though you grab more than one Valkyrie token. There you go. That's all you really need to know. So you just calculate your strength, get the points, get the tokens inside, and the meeple that goes back to your general supply. And there you go. Just as an added note, you're going to realize that the black workers that you're using start getting locked in. So the game's going to progress where everyone has gray workers and then white workers and so on and so on. So there you go. That's the flow of the game. So on your turn, you're either doing a work action or a raid action. Raid, you calculate points. You raid, you get the loot tokens, the points. The work is you do an action, you get the thing, you pull a guy, you do another thing. So on and so on. You just keep going till the end game is triggered. So remember, there's 3 ways for the game to end. Calculate your points, you score, see who wins. Alright, go to my playthrough, comment below, let me know what you think. Have a good one.